Good afternoon. I'm Paweł Trzaskowski and this is World Talks. The United States decided to ease some sanctions on Russian oil in response to rising global energy prices as the war in the Middle East continues. To discuss possible repercussions of this decision, I'm joined now by Hugo Dixon, Commentator-at-Large from Reuters. Hello, Mr. Dixon. Good to have you with us.
Pleasure to be with you, Paweł.
So, let's start with a simple question. Would you say that Russia is now the winner of the war in the Middle East?
Yes, it is, at least so far, the big winner. Immediately, there's about 100 million barrels of Russian oil that's floating on the high seas, which has not been able to find a home because of previous sanctions. And now it is going to be free to sell that. Now, if it can get $100 a barrel, that's $10 billion, and that's a big windfall for Russia. Obviously, not all of that will go to the Kremlin's coffers, but they will get a big slice of that. And that's only the first step, because I think it's not only that there's this freedom to sell this oil, there's the fact that the price of oil for everything else that they sell has gone up. And they're going to be, before this war in the Middle East, Russia, the sanctions were beginning to really squeeze Russia. Not only was it not able to sell some of its oil, but it was actually forced to sell whatever it could sell at quite a big discount, more than $10 a barrel, sometimes $13 a barrel, and sometimes even more than that. Now it's very much a seller's market, and Russia will not only be able to sell more oil, it will be able to sell it at a much higher price. So whereas a month ago things looked very bad for the Russian fiscal position, now things are much more rosy, and this is extremely bad for Ukraine. So I think that certainly from a European perspective, the big winner is Russia and the big loser is Ukraine.
You mentioned the number $10 billion. This is exactly the number that Ukraine's President Zelensky mentioned today in Paris during his meeting with French President Macron. But prior to that, US State Secretary Scott Bessent said that Russia will not benefit much from lifting those sanctions. Is $10 billion not much when you compare it to American economy, or maybe the US is trying to downplay the effect that lifting the sanctions has on Russia?
I think that what you're saying, the latter, is the truth of the matter, Paweł, which is that this is a big benefit for Russia, and America is trying to pretend that it's not helping Russia very much. Donald Trump has created a massive mess with his attack, along with Israel, of Iran. And this is one of the consequences. And in order to get out of a mess that it has created, it is shifting the pain onto Ukraine. And Donald Trump, as we know, had that telephone call a few days ago with President Vladimir Putin. And it was partly as a result of that we've got this relaxation of sanctions. But Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, has indeed said that this is just going to be a temporary relaxation of sanctions. But let's see. I mean, this war could go on for quite some time, and if it isn't finished soon, it's quite likely that Donald Trump is going to have to turn again to Vladimir Putin for some help. And what is Vladimir Putin going to want? He's going to want money, and he's going to want pressure from Washington onto Kiev rather than pressure on the Kremlin. And unfortunately, Donald Trump has made a complete mess in the Middle East, and Europe is going to suffer.
I would like to stop at this mess, exactly. Would you say that lifting the sanctions is a panic move from Washington? Because you said that this war in Iran can still last quite some time. At the beginning of the war, Donald Trump said it's going to take 4 to 5 weeks. So according to positive estimates, we should be halfway through. But what's the situation now?
Well, I'm just following exactly what you're following, Paweł, and it looks to me that it's going to be very difficult for Donald Trump to get out of this problem, because the Iranians will then look like they are the winners. And of course, America has got much, much more stronger military firepower. But it's very difficult to get rid of a regime just by bombing it from the air. And Donald Trump clearly doesn't have any appetite to put troops on the ground, apart from perhaps some special commanders, special forces, to try to get hold of the uranium pile of enriched uranium. But so even if Donald Trump wants to end the war, it's quite possible that the Iranians will continue it, at least for a little bit, just to teach America a lesson, because they will otherwise be afraid that America and Israel will keep coming back and hitting them every 6 months, every year, or whatever. Do you remember? It was only last summer that they hit them the last time. And so if you're in Tehran, you're not going to be keen to stop this war too soon. Now, that said, I mean, it could be over relatively soon, because I think Iran will not want to, although it will probably keep fighting a little bit after just to prove a point, it too will be suffering as a result of this war. So it may not go on for a very long time, but I think that the oil price will not suddenly collapse. If you look at what's happening in the markets, I mean, you can see not just the current oil price, which is 100, the price that markets are predicting for June is 97, and the price for July is 93. So there is a prediction of a slight drop in the oil price, but still it is expected to remain much, much higher than it was at the beginning of the year, which, if you remember, was $60 a barrel. And Moscow wasn't getting $60 a barrel, it was getting less than $50 a barrel. So if it ends up with 90 or 93 or 97 or something like that, Russia is getting about twice as much money than it was expected to get only a month ago. This is an absolute disaster, what Donald Trump has done. And the relaxation of sanctions, of course, is sort of piling insult onto injury. But even if this relaxation of sanctions wasn't there, Russia would still be able to get more money for the oil that it's selling, because the sanctions haven't completely stopped Russia from exporting its oil. So I'm afraid we're in a very, very, very difficult situation.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My guest was Hugo Dixon,
Thank you.
Commentator-at-Large from Reuters. And I'm Paweł Trzaskowski. You have been watching World Talks. Please stay with us for more updates.